than half of that. It is especially difficult, teachers say, to be an educator here in the state, which ranks 49 out of 50 for average per year salary for the teachers. Pupil spending is also near the bottom, and they say 25% of the workforce left the profession in 2017. Some districts are so bad they've gone to 4-day work weeks just so teachers can get extra jobs on Fridays, or because schools simply can't keep the lights on. Teachers I spoke to say it has become especially difficult, and more so by the day.
It's getting increasingly harder for us to meet the individual needs of each one of our students. That's something that's incredibly important to us and absolutely tied to the funding we're asking for.
Well, we're asking Secretary DeVos to come to Oklahoma, see how badly needed funding is for our classrooms. We're doing this for the kids today. It's not about us, it's about the kids, funding our classrooms, getting adequate textbooks, getting qualified, highly qualified teachers in the classroom, and the resources that enable us to do our job more effectively.
And teachers' organizations I've spoken to say there is another rally planned outside the Capitol later this morning. Dave, Renee.
All right, Nick, thank you. Connecticut Democrat Congressman Elizabeth Esty has announced she will not run for re-election in November. It follows reports it took her 3 months to dismiss her chief of staff after he allegedly harassed and threatened a former aide. Last week, Esty told CNN she was not resigning, but on Monday, she reversed course, announcing on Facebook she was ending her time in Congress, adding, quote, "Too many women have been harmed by harassment in the workplace. In the terrible situation in my office, I could have and should have done better." Esty also asked the House Ethics Committee to expedite its investigation into the matter.
Well, federal authorities have charged the pastor of a Texas megachurch with defrauding elderly investors. Prosecutors allege Pastor Kirby John Caldwell built millions from dozens of investors in a Chinese bond scheme. Caldwell and business partner Gregory Smith face multiple counts of wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit both. The 64-year-old Caldwell is a senior pastor of Windsor Village United Methodist Church in Houston and reportedly a former spiritual advisor to Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama.
Ouch. All right, a 13-year-old boy killed in a plane crash. It happened on an Indiana airport runway. Authorities say 31-year-olds Kyle Hipst and David Whitcamper were taking off in a single-engine plane at the Marion Municipal Airport Monday when they hit the tail of a larger jet that just landed. The firefighters' plane crashed and caught fire. The 5 people in the larger aircraft escaped unhurt. The FAA says the airport does not have an air traffic control tower and that pilots are expected to announce their intentions on a common radio frequency. The NTSB is investigating the incident.
Well, a 13-year-old boy who was stuck in a sewage pipe for at least 12 hours is recovering this morning. Authorities in Los Angeles say he was playing on an old shack when boards covering a pipe opening gave way and he plunged 25 feet underground. CNN's Nick Watt has more.
Dave and Renee, an horrific story with thankfully a happy ending. Jesse Hernandez, a 13-year-old kid, was in Griffith Park here in Los Angeles Sunday afternoon. He was playing with some friends when he fell into the sewer system, fell about 25 feet down into a pipe that they say is about 4 feet in diameter with maybe 2 feet of liquid flowing at 15 miles an hour. Now, rescuers, about 100 people in all. We had police officers, fire department, park rangers searched for him for over 12 hours. Eventually, in the early hours, a sanitation crew found him when they opened a manhole cover in between 2 highways, 2 freeways here in Los Angeles. He was apparently 11 feet down. He was lucid. He was talking. They dropped a hose down to him, pulled him out, and the first thing Jesse asked for was a cell phone so he could call his family, who were obviously very, very worried. Now, rescue workers said that they had hoped that they would get him, but they knew that the window was closing. Dave and Renee, back to you.
Amazing. He survived that.
Indeed. All right, up ahead, who could next get the boot from the Trump White House? Well, new CNN reporting points to that gentleman, EPA boss Scott Pruitt. Why is source
an embarrassment to our country. And breaking overnight, a declassified memo reveals for the first time special counsel Robert Mueller is authorized to pursue collusion charges against the president's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort. The new document highlights payments to Manafort from the Ukrainian government, which have links to Russian politicians and operatives. The memo says that that link compels investigators to examine Russian efforts to interfere in the 2016 election.
The payments from Ukraine to Manafort already the basis for financial crimes charges he faces. Manafort wants the charges dismissed, claiming they're beyond Mueller's scope because Ukraine is unrelated to the campaign. The newly declassified memo was written in August by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. It shows Rosenstein's strong backing for the special counsel despite constant attacks from the president.
And the President Trump on attack as the White House makes another push for an immigration bill. In a call with reporters, West Wing officials called immigration laws loopholes that allow immigrants to cross the U.S.-Mexican border illegally. Loopholes, they said, must be closed. Pressed on specifics, though, the officials admitted these were largely the same proposals they've been pushing since last fall. At the White House Easter egg roll, the president blamed the failure of DACA protections for Dreamers on Democrats.
The Democrats have really let them down. They've really let them down. They had this great opportunity. The Democrats have really let them down. It's a shame. And now people are taking advantage of DACA, and that's a shame. It should have never happened.
Didn't you kill DACA, sir? Didn't you kill DACA?
So whose is this?
Well, after signing autographs on the South Lawn, the president returned to his immigration drumbeat on Twitter. More on that from CNN's Boris Sanchez at the White House.
Renee and Dave, President Trump picking up where he left off this weekend on this tweet storm about immigration, Amazon, and a host of other issues. The president on Monday night taking to Twitter yet again to bash Democrats over immigration policy. Here are those tweets now. One of them, the president writes, quote, "As ridiculous as it sounds, the laws of our country do not easily allow us to send those crossing our southern border back where they came from. A whole big wasted procedure must take place. Mexico and Canada have tough immigration laws, whereas ours are an Obama joke. Act, Congress." The president then went on, "Must pass tough laws and build the wall. Democrats allow open borders, drugs, and crime." We should point out this tweet storm began shortly after a news segment aired on a cable news station about immigration. We should also note that the president spent the weekend socializing with some immigration hardliners at his estate in Mar-a-Lago in West Palm Beach. The president apparently spending time with Fox News hosts Jeanine Pirro and Sean Hannity, as well as a former Fox News executive, Bill Shine. Now, sources familiar with their conversation tell CNN that they told the president that his base believes he is being soft on immigration. They went further, even telling the president that the Republicans' success in the midterm elections in November depend on his ability to tout success and progress when it comes to the border wall. So the president's frustrations boiling over, winding up on Twitter following conversations with those who often, as sources tell us, try to rile him up. Dave and Renee.
All right, Boris, thanks. Trade tensions and a presidential attack on Amazon are rocking Wall Street. The NASDAQ lost nearly 3% yesterday, thanks mainly to Amazon. Amazon shares fell 5% after President Trump once again accused him of not paying taxes and taking advantage of the post office. The Dow fell 459 points after China slapped tariffs on $3 billion worth of U.S. goods. Retaliation for Trump's duties on foreign steel and aluminum. The worry on Wall Street, a trade war. That would be devastating for U.S. consumers and companies. But White House trade advisor Peter Navarro does not see that happening. Here's what he said about current U.S. trade relations with China.
I don't think this is going to be an action response. That's not what this should be about. That just leads to escalation and spirals. What I do know is that the president is firmly committed to a course of action which will level the playing field between the United States and China, and he has the full support of the American people.
Yesterday, China slapped tariffs on 128 U.S. products, including pork, recycled aluminum, fruit, nuts, and wine. Now, $3 billion, actually a small portion of the hundreds of billions of dollars shipped between the U.S. and China each year. But these tariffs are strategic. For example, take pork. The Pork Producers Council warns this will have significant impact on rural Americans. And of the top 10 pork-producing states, 8 voted for President Trump in 2016.
Well, President Trump is also targeting his own Justice Department, claiming it's dragging its feet, handing over documents related to Republican-led congressional investigations. He tweeted, "So sad that the Department of Justice," in quotes, and the FBI are slow walking or even not giving the unredacted documents requested by Congress, an embarrassment to our country. Well, the timing of the tweet, a little odd, considering FBI Director Chris Wray recently promised round-the-clock shifts to speed up document production. The congressional requests seek documents relating to the FBI probe of Hillary Clinton's private email server and possible FBI abuses of surveillance warrants targeting former Trump campaign aide Carter Page.
The wife of Andrew McCabe, the man fired as deputy director of the FBI, speaking out about President Trump's attacks on her family. Jill McCabe says the president's relentless taunts aimed at her husband, fired just shy of his retirement, have been a nightmare. Many of those attacks centered on Jill McCabe's 2015 run for the state Senate in Virginia. Now, a Washington Post op-ed, she writes this: "To have my personal reputation and integrity and those of my family attacked this way is beyond horrible. It feels awful every day. It keeps me up nights. I made the decision to run for office because I was trying to help people. Instead, it turned into something that was used to attack our family, my husband's career, and the entire FBI." The president claimed donations to Jill McCabe from Virginia's then governor, Democrat Terry McAuliffe, were an example of Hillary Clinton trying to sway the FBI investigation into her email server. But those donations came before Andrew McCabe had any oversight of the investigation.
EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt's job is in jeopardy. That, according to a senior White House official who tells CNN the president is angry over Pruitt's ethical questions. Another administration official tells CNN there's nothing that the president despises more than his own officials getting bad publicity. Pruitt is under growing scrutiny after his decision to rent a room in a condo for below market value from the wife of a prominent Washington energy lobbyist. He's also faced criticism for travel expenses and bringing his security detail on personal trips. No official comment from the White House.
Russian President Vladimir Putin traveling to Turkey today, topping the agenda with his Turkish counterpart Recep Erdogan, the situation in Syria. The meeting coming at a time U.S. influence in the region is weakening, and it seems Moscow is calling the shots. CNN's Frederick Pleitkin on the ground in Damascus for us this morning. Fred?
Good morning, Dave and Renee. Well, the U.S. certainly seems to be losing influence here, especially after President Trump announced a couple of days ago, surprisingly, that America would be pulling out of Syria soon after defeating ISIS. Now, as you can imagine, a lot of those groups that were essentially America's ground forces in the fight against ISIS are pretty angry, especially the Kurdish forces. They say, look, they thought America would stand by their side even after ISIS is defeated. The big winners in all of this appear to be the Russians. You look at the situation here in Damascus, where I am right now. The rebels have lost a lot of territory in their fight against the government of President Bashar al-Assad, and it's essentially been the